All right, welcome back, Children Radio, and pulled that off last second. I was having problems with the studio, trying to call out to get Charlotte on the phone, and it's like the last second it worked, it went through. So we're now ready. We have her on the line, and let's get her live on the air. Let's welcome everybody to Totally Driven Radio, the one, the only Miss Charlotte Stewart. How you doing, Charlotte?
I'm great, Bay. How are you?
I'm doing good, and let me tell you, I am shocked and surprised at you, my dear. I really am.
Oh my goodness, why?
Because you immediately think you Little House on the Prairie, and you're thinking like all these like goody things happening in life, and then I was like, wow, this was not Little House on the Prairie at all.
Well, it's not Little House on the Prairie. This is my life. I didn't write a book about Miss Beadle. I wrote a book about Charlotte Stewart and her life and what happened in Hollywood and all around me. So I'm not surprised that you're shocked.
Do you think a lot of other people are going to be very shocked by your book?
Well, some of them are, and some of them will realize what it was like in the 60s and 70s in Hollywood. You know, if they were there, they'd realize that there was a lot going on, and it was a fun time. I had a ball. I had a really good time. I was in my 20s, and life was really exciting. You want to get specific? Come on. I dare you.
You dare me. Oh, boy. Look at you. See, this could get scary now. Okay. So, right away, I'll run down, like, right away as I was reading through things, I see, like, it's literally a laundry list. And I even said to my wife, I'm like, and I just gave her the list first. And she's like,
yes.
What's that? And I said, this is some people that Charlotte Stewart kind of knew. And some of the names I threw out there were Bill Murray, John Voight, Richard Dreyfuss,
right?
Jimmy Stewart, Jim Morrison.
Well, Jimmy Stewart was somebody I worked with. The other men are, people that were in my life. Believe me, I worked and lived in Hollywood. I was popular. I was a working actress. And these are the people that I met along the way, That was just part of my life. I'm not surprised.
Wow. So, all right, so then let's talk about, like Jimmy Stewart you worked with. You say you worked with Elvis Presley as well.
I did. I did a movie with Elvis Presley called Speedway. Had a delightful afternoon with him. He was charming. He was a Southern gentleman. He told me all about his mother, Gladys, and what it was like when he had to go in the Army and they wouldn't let him come home when his mom was sick, and that was really hard on him. But he told me this, not as I don't know. He was just sharing an experience, and it was very sweet of him. I was a young actress, and I was working on the show, and he knew I was probably very impressed with him, which I was. My God, it was Elvis Presley. And but he was just making me feel comfortable and at home by sharing some experiences that he had, and I really appreciated it.
Now, were you, like with Elvis, were you starstruck at all working with him? I mean,
well,
he was the king.
Of course, it's like, you meet someone like Elvis Presley, and, he was a very big deal when I was in high school. So, of course, he's bigger than life. But the fact is he didn't act like that. He didn't, go flashing around and everything. He sat very quietly. He pulled up a chair for me, and he was just charming. And he worked together. We had a one kind of long scene together, and he was very professional. He knew his lines. He was great. I have nothing but admiration for him. And I'm so sorry that, his life ended the way it did. And I think sometimes that's the problem with, a celebrity who has too many people around him saying, yeah, I'll get this for you and I'll get that for you. Or doctors who, prescribe things for you that they have no business doing. And we've seen that tragedy so often. I mean, just look at the death of Prince just recently. You know, that was totally unnecessary. He didn't have to die. If somebody had really cared about him and, you know, cared about his health, there were other ways to deal with. I know he had a lot of back pain and things from all of his, you know, concerts and things, but no, not to give him something as lethal as fentanyl. So, you know, that's just uncalled for.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's why we ran so late, because that's what we were talking about was that issue right there with, and I was saying not even Hollywood, you can't even say it's Hollywood, just entertainment business in general, with the way like a Prince or a Michael Jackson end up getting these drugs that they shouldn't have.
And they have these, you know, I guess they're real doctors, they say they are, who are so, you know, enamored of being with a celebrity that they, you know, they just don't pay attention to what they're really doing, and they kill these people. It's so sad. It's so sad.
It is.
You know, really that's kind of off the track here, you know. Yes, I knew Jimmy Stewart. I did a movie called Cheyenne Social Club. He was not one of my dates, I may say. He was the lead in the movie, along with Henry Fonda, and directed by Gene Kelly, famous director. So I was once again dazzled to be in the company of these people, you know. But I am, you know, or I was a working actress, and I got to, you know, be in the company of many very interesting and famous people. Some of them I dated, some of them I didn't. But, you know, I had a good time. I was a young and, you know, attractive girl, and they were attractive, certainly. So, yeah, I had a good time. I met a lot of interesting men.
Jim Morrison.
Oh, Jim. Jim was he was great. I loved him so much. I don't mean loved in the fact of, you know, having a love affair. He was a drinking buddy, and we used to go out drinking together, and half the time I'd have to make sure he got home safely, which is usually back to my place, you know, if you want to know. He was with a friend. He was a friend with benefits, I'll call it. But once again, we were good friends. He was safe with me. I didn't want anything from him. We did not have a love affair, but we did have a good time. And unfortunately, he died much too young, and which is another thing, very sad. But my opinion, you know, when I would spend time with Jim, he had obviously a big drinking problem, and he had an enlarged heart as a child because he had rheumatic fever, is what I understood. And I don't know what the medical cause of his death was, but I think he really died of a heart attack because Jim did not do drugs. He drank excessively, but he did not do drugs. I never saw him do a drug the whole time I'd known him. So
wow.
That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
I mean, years later, I mean, you have to look back and be like, wow, like, I either knew, hung out with, or worked with iconic people.
Oh, of course I did, but I had a career of over 50 years, you know, and it was back in the late 60s, early 70s. And sure, I did drugs, but so did everybody. I'm not saying that is
right.
an excuse, but those were the times that, you know, where I was working. Every party you went to, somebody would, you know, offer you cocaine. Hell yeah, I'm going to take it. And I did get over my head with alcohol. But I did, you know, eventually get into treatment, and that saved my life. I had a family that was very supportive and friends that cared about me, and, you know, I got over it back in 1984. It's over 30 years ago. But I've had a remarkable life and worked with amazing people. You know, Michael Landon, was my boss for 4 years on Little House on the Prairie, and David Lynch. You know, I did his first film with him. Eraserhead, before he did Elephant Man, and in Twin Peaks, played the eternal optimist Betty Briggs, and I'm back in the new series Twin Peaks, which will go on the air next year on Showtime, 2017.
That's awesome.
I'm a girl that likes to have fun, and I do.
Now, going back to Michael Landon, like, Now, you said you finally started going into treatment in 1984, was it?
Yes, 1984. Yeah, I did Little House on the Prairie in 1973 through 74 through 78, and then after Little House on the Prairie, I worked sporadically, and I got in over my head with alcohol and a bit of cocaine, although that was a little too expensive for my taste. But yes, I hired a business manager who managed to go through all of my money with his own cocaine use, and I lost my house and everything I had, and ended up basically not on the street, because I had friends that kind of looked after me. But yeah, it wasn't until 1984 that finally I got into a drug and alcohol treatment program, and that saved my life. And I share that in my story, and I share other things, painful things in my story, because somebody's going to read it and identify. And I want them to know that there's help and there's a solution and that they're not alone.
Now, I mean, did you just go into treatment one time and it just clicked for you and you were able to? Well,
yeah, it was a big relief, Yes, I was in 1984, and that really did it for me. I later on married a gentleman who was a road manager for the Manhattan Transfer and a lot of road shows, and he was sober too. We had a lovely 20-year marriage, and he eventually passed away after we moved up here to Napa. I live in the Napa Valley now, and it's lovely. And I'm 75, and I just got remarried.
Oh, congratulations.
See, it's never too late.
It is never too late.
And like I said,
what made
still
you
working,
finally,
I've been, huh?
I was going to say, what made you finally want to write this book?
Well, I met a writer up here in Napa, and he told me I had some interesting stories and I should write a book, and I told him he was crazy, because, I wasn't a person who, thought anybody would be interested in anything I had to say. But he felt differently and encouraged me to tell him stories, and so we worked on this. It's been almost 3 years that we worked on it. It wasn't just jotting things down and overnight I had a book. I took it very seriously, and I shared some very intimate things in my book, personal things that I went through, some painful, some joyous, some outrageous, but they were all part of my life, and I felt that was
right.
important. I didn't want to write something that was just fluffy and, and then life was great. Life wasn't always that great. I had some hard times, and I'm not alone in those things that I experienced. I had cancer. I lost a husband. I had a lot of difficult things that I went through. But here I am out the other side, like I said, just turned 75, and I've got a whole new life ahead of me. It's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Exciting. Yeah.
Now, at any point did you, right away I thought when I saw that you had cancer, I'm thinking to myself, at that point I would have said, you know what, I'm getting a freaking drink. I deserve it. Did you ever have that type of feeling?
I was sober then. I was on Twin Peaks. I had a job. It wasn't the kind of cancer. I mean, there was a solution to it. I had surgery, had radiation, so it wasn't terminal. I wasn't at any point ever afraid of losing my life. I knew that I had great care. I had great doctors. I was in a new series that was exciting. I was sharing a house with Jack Nance. I don't know if you remember Jack from Twin Peaks. He was one of the leads in it, and he had the lead in Eraserhead. We had worked together for many years, and I had good friends around me, and I had love in my life. I met my husband when I was diagnosed with. No, I never faltered at that moment. I'm a real optimistic person. I believe in the good in people, and I believe tomorrow's another day, and so that's my philosophy right up to today.
That's great. Now, how about if somebody turns around and says they want to make this your book into a movie, who would you want to play you?
Oh, gosh. I can't even imagine them wanting to make this into a movie in the first place. I mean, I don't
never
see
know.
that happening. No, I
you
know.
Never
no,
know.
that wouldn't be up to me anyway. I wouldn't have any perspective on it anyway. I would say, "Oh my God, they're way too pretty," or whatever. No, I just don't see that happening. I would just rather you enjoy the book, pass it on, let somebody else enjoy it, talk to me about it or whatever you want. But yeah, I think this is enough. Who knows? I may write again, but right now I'm satisfied with my life, and I'm still traveling all the time. In fact, I'm leaving next week for Richmond, Virginia for a Twin Peaks event, and then I'm going to Walnut Grove, Minnesota for a Little House on the Prairie event, and then my husband and I are going to France for a Little House reunion there in the south of France and celebrate our 1-year anniversary as a late honeymoon, and then coming back, and I don't know what's after that. God knows. I'm ready. Throw it to me.
That's great. That is great. Now, when you were writing the book, though, were you kind of like, almost like going through like therapy, like opening your eyes to a lot of things?
It was very difficult. It was very hard. Some of the stuff was hard to relate, and I was writing with a man, so some of the stuff was. Back when I was in my early 20s, I had an abortion, and those days it was illegal. So I had to go to Mexico. I went to Tijuana for a really horrendous, awful experience. I hope no one. We must make, a terminacy legal with a doctor under certain, under proper circumstances, not in the back room of a dentist's office. I had to talk about that. I had to talk about my husband dying in my arms. That was horrible. It was awful. But I'm not the only person who's ever gone through something like that. You deal with it with the loss of a friend or a spouse with dignity and love. I was able to talk to him about it. Losing my parents, the death of my mom, is actually in my book a funny story. My mom had a great sense of humor, and I'm not gonna relate it now because it's fun. It's more fun to read about. But I spent the last week of her life with her, and we laughed and laughed and laughed about the silliest things. But it's all in my book, and I hope you'll find that part fun. It was sad, but funny. Yeah, I was rushing to the hospital to see my mom before they put her, on too much morphine, and I was smoking a joint. And I got stopped. I was in my hometown, Yuba City, and I got stopped by a cop. And I thought, oh my God, if I get stopped, I was in my mother's car. I'm going to just tell them it's my mother's. And I related that to my sister while I was sitting on my mom's bed, and my mom had already, been put out with the morphine. I said I was just going to tell them it was Mom's, and my mother burst out laughing. She thought that was so funny that. On her deathbed, I would blame her for the marijuana in my car. So life is just full of wonderful and amusing things, and you just never know. So I'm ready for the next part of my life. I'm excited.
That's awesome.
And I hope you have as adventurous a life as I have, and wake up every morning ready to meet it.
I'll tell you what, I hope I do too, because your life sounds like it was a lot of fun.
It is, and I actually thank you for talking to me about it.
Now, the book is called Little House in the Hollywood Hills, A Bad Girl's Guide to Becoming Miss Beadle, Mary X, and Me. And it was released yesterday.
That's right. Yep. Yesterday.
And where can everybody get it?
On Amazon. Amazon.com has it now. I think they told me that the hard cover is already out of stock, but you can get the soft cover. So just be patient and put in your order, and you'll. And I'll be doing some book signings around the country. Like I said, I'll be in Richmond, Virginia next week, and I'm having a book signing here in my hometown of Napa in 3 weeks, and I'm excited about that because most people in Napa don't know that I'm an actress, and I think this is going to surprise them a lot when they see it. There's going to be an article in the paper and, letting them know about the book signing, because most people have no idea. I keep a very low profile.
You're going to turn Napa upside down.
Yes, I know. Most people, when they meet me, they say, "You look so familiar. Did you go to school with my sister?" Or, because I've been in their house. A lot of people, the Little House on the Prairie is every single day in 120 countries. And I'm always amazed at all the people that are fans. It always surprises me.
Yeah. It shocks me that it's still, like you said, in 120 countries it's being played every day. It's amazing.
Every day. I mean, people all across the country who say that they watched it with their grandparents, 45 years ago, and now they're watching it with their grandkids. And it's just amazing to me. When we were doing the house, I was living in Los Angeles, and nobody in L.A. paid us any attention. It's like we didn't exist. Nobody cared about it. Oh, it was not hip, slip, or cool. And, so it's like, oh, that show, that Little House on, very corny. And now I bet they wish that they had the residuals, after 45 years, the show running every single day. Never underestimate Michael Landon. He was very smart. Yeah, he was very
all these
smart.
Years later.
He knew exactly, who he was writing for.
That's great. Cool. So, and I think the best way to sum up the book, I think Neil Young did it perfect. I didn't know Miss Beadle knew so much about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I read that. I just cracked up.
He said that. I know. I did a movie with Neil called Human Highway. And, of course, I knew Neil for years and years before I had my store, The Liquid Butterfly. And that's where I met Jim Morrison. Jim used to come in and hang out in my store. And, look, Elektra Records was right across the street, so there were a lot of comings and goings then. And I had rock and roll people in and out of my store all the time. I came in one day, and Joni Mitchell had propped a painting on my ironing board, and it was one of her covers for Ladies of the Canyon. And I still have it on my wall today. I just lived a life that was so lucky and so full and so rich. And so I stumbled along the way a little bit. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's all part of life and lessons learned.
Yep, that's the truth.
That's great. Charlotte, this has been great. I wish you all the luck with the book. And
Thank you.
I see you do like autograph conventions and all too, I see from time to time, right?
I'm sorry, I did a what?
You do the autograph conventions?
Oh, I used to do them all the time. In fact, I just got invited to one, but I can't because I'm going to be in Minnesota. I just got invited to the Hollywood one. But, I got to pick and choose where I'm going, and they asked me first. So, yeah, I will always do them. If you know one in your town, call me up. You've got my phone number.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to...
I would...
Trying to work
on
some things. So, I am in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay, I'd love to come to Philadelphia. Yeah, call me up. I'll be on the plane.
Sounds like a plan. Cheesesteaks on me.
Yep.
Great, Charlotte. I want to thank you so much again, and everybody needs to go to Amazon. Get the book. You will not be disappointed. Neil Young says so.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your call. And hi,
thanks,
everybody
Charlotte.
in Philadelphia. Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, there she goes. Miss Charlotte Stewart, and she's got a story to tell you. Check out that book. Little House in the Hollywood Hills. I'm telling you, I never would have thought it. Never, ever, ever.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, like, the list of names on here, like, I don't know a lot of them, but she's had relationships with these people. Richard Bamer, Bill Murray, John Voight, Richard Dreyfuss, Tim Considine, Stuart Margolin, Victor French, Ralph Waite, Chad Everett, Michael Parks, Mike Connors, Johnny Mandel, Robert Greenfield, and her most notorious, Jim Morrison. Oh, the hell of a house in the hills, let me tell you. Good for her, though. She's been through a lot. She's been through a lot. Husband's dying, cancer, losing everything, addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Suicide, too. She attempted suicide. I didn't even get to that. Crazy. Crazy. What's that?
I said maybe that's the best for that. We didn't get to that.
Yeah, right?